Hello, I'm Phil Spencer and welcome back to Bonkers for Boro. In this video, we're going to be telling the truth about Ben Doak's future and whether Middlesbrough really have any chance of signing him on a permanent basis. Now, since arriving at the club over the summer, Ben Doak has absolutely set pulses racing. He's become a real fans' favourite at the Riverside Stadium, and considering he's just turned 19 years of age, it's quite spectacular just how big an impact he's having in Michael Carrick's team and in the Championship as a whole. Now, for those who don't know about Ben Doak, he's a player who seems to have been around for a few years, particularly if you're a lover of Football Manager and those sorts of games. He made his name at Celtic, completed a permanent move to Liverpool, and with Liverpool, he's since kicked on. Graduated through their academy and emerged as a first team player under Jurgen Klopp and obviously now under Arne Slot. Now, since he moved to the club, since he moved to Liverpool and broke into the team, he's made 10 first team appearances for Liverpool, which is no mean feat. Obviously, Liverpool are a club who are vying for the Premier League title. They're regularly challenging for Champions Leagues and European crowns as well. He's competing in terms of his position. He's a right winger, a right-footed player who sometimes plays on the left flank as well. So in terms of competition for places at Anfield, he's really got his work cut out with the likes of Mohamed Salah, Jota, Luis Diaz, players like that, all competing for those kind of places within the team. But he's managed to rack up 10 first-team appearances. As you can see, three of those have come in the Premier League, 3 of them in the Europa League. He's racked up a decent amount of minutes there, showing that he is a player who is very, very highly rated at Anfield, someone who potentially could have a big role to play there in the future. Now, obviously, the question has to be asked about why Ben Doak joined Middlesbrough. In the first place, he was getting first team minutes at Anfield, someone who the club apparently seemed to rate very, very highly. But why was he allowed to join Middlesbrough? Well, the truth is that at his age, first team opportunities were never really going to be guaranteed. Arne Slot came into the club over the summer. He's clearly done a review of the first team squad, and as a club who were wanting to challenge for all of the major honours, he's going to need his best players out there performing. Now, that's all well and good. Ben Doak would learn a huge amount playing alongside those players and under Arne Slot, but would he be getting the required amount of game time needed to kick on and really show his potential? So Ben Doak spoke to the media earlier this season about his future, about how the move came about. And I'll whistle through what he said here. So he said, I went on a pre-season tour with Liverpool, had a good time, got some minutes for the first time since my injury last year. And I think I made a good impression before the injury. I had a few clubs with eyes on me. The club helped me pick as well. And I watched a few Boro games and I knew a few of the lads here. I know that he's played with Hayden Hackney previously in Scotland's youth setup. I didn't think there was a much better place than the Boro. Especially, to be honest, the amount that they've had the ball on the right-hand side and the team just naturally caters to my game. We'll get onto this in just a minute. The club Liverpool helps you narrow it down, and then you speak to the gaffer and then just pick the team that takes your fancy. And Arne Slot obviously approved of the choice. He said Michael's team play really good football and he's got the team playing really well. Obviously, Ben Doak was also asked if Arne Slot has been in touch with him since moving to Middlesbrough, and he said, no, I don't think he's got my number, but I had some great times under him, and some of the most memorable moments of my career so far came under Jurgen. Obviously, it was Jurgen Klopp who gave him his senior debut at Liverpool. He made all 10 of his first-team appearances under Klopp before Arne Slot came into the club this summer. Now, since he came into the club, very young player, he was 18 when he arrived at Middlesbrough. He did have to be a little bit patient, you've got to say, for breaking into that first team. For those who don't follow Middlesbrough particularly closely, it was Isaiah Jones who was playing on the right wing primarily. He kind of had that spot sort of locked down over the last couple of seasons. But Ben Doak came in and the idea was to kind of give a little bit of competition for places on that right-hand side. And Ben Doak has certainly done now. If anything, Ben Doak has probably proven himself to be one of Middlesbrough's key players this season and perhaps the most important. In that time, since he came to the club, he's made 10 appearances in the Championship. He scored 1 goal, provided 3 assists. But I don't think that really tells the full story of the level of influence that he's got on this Middlesbrough team. Ben Doak is a player who, I've spoken about this previously, is that he's someone who comes into the team and while he's only just turned 19, he doesn't really play with that sort of immaturity and sort of enthusiasm, I guess, that you would typically see from a young player. I don't mean that in a negative way. He's just really got the sort of like composure and maturity to know his game and know how to make the biggest impact. So what you typically see is a lot of players, particularly those who play on the wing, they like to really want to make an impression. Is the main thing. They want to get on the pitch, and when they do so, they're trying really, really hard, trying probably too hard, trying step overs, coming in field, probably drifting from their position. They just want to get a touch of the ball to be able to show what they're capable of doing. But Ben Doak doesn't do that. Ben Doak's a player who knows his qualities. He knows his position on the right wing. He knows what he needs to do to make an impact. And so he's someone who, to use your cliche, he loves to get chalk on his boots. He sticks to the right-hand side. He doesn't drift in field at all. Someone who stays out wide, knows his position, just monitors the game, monitors his fullback. And so he's there and he's ready and raring to go when the opportunity does arise. He mentioned it in his comments there about how Middlesbrough do like to play their game down the right flank. And that's something that he clearly knows. It's something he knows. It's something that Michael Carrick's got drilled into his team. They know that he's an outlet on that right flank. And so if he waits there, the ball is going to come his way eventually, because that's part of the game plan. And by doing that, it means that he can preserve his energy, get the ball on the half turn, and use his pace and power to really drive at the defenders and cause problems. And he's certainly been able to do that. In doing so, it's just meant that he's been really, really effective. He's not someone who you probably look at the statistics and you'd see he probably doesn't have a huge amount of the ball in the game, but he's someone who is a really, really exciting and efficient outlet, someone who, when he does get on the ball, you know something's going to happen. And that's because, as I mentioned, when the ball does come to him, he's ready and raring to go, ready to get the ball in a good position. When he picks up the ball, he knows that he's in a good position to make something happen. He's typically one step ahead of the defender, both in energy levels and also in terms of anticipating where the ball's going to go. And that's been something which has been really, really effective for Middlesbrough this season. Just in their most recent match against Luton, I was able to watch him quite closely at the Riverside, and he was just an absolute handful, really. Luton just didn't know how to handle him. He ripped them apart down that right wing. Played a part in 2 goals for Middlesbrough on that afternoon. And it was just a really, really outstanding performance, and one which showed that he's really, really growing into this Middlesbrough team, which is very exciting with the season so young. Now, if we take a bit of a deeper look at Ben Doak's statistics this season, so these are statistics that have come from FotMob, a really reliable app in terms of statistics in the Championship and further afield as well. You can see the numbers. I'm not going to go through every single one, but you can see the numbers here of how he's performed in these key metrics. The bars on the right indicate just how he's performing compared to other players in the Championship. So I guess a full green bar means that he's at the top of the tree as a player who is leading the way in the Championship. And that's something which is really, really exciting, because when you do look at some of these statistics, particularly those that are very key for a right winger, Ben Doak is really sort of leading the way in a lot of these sort of areas. His expected goals is good. Shots on target, he's averaging 1.05 shots on target a game. You look at his passing. You've got his assists there. He's obviously, as I mentioned before, that he's provided 3 assists for Middlesbrough in 10 games, which is really good going, creating 2.75 chances per game, which is among the best in the Championship. In possession, he's been a real handful. Successful dribbles, 3.01 per game, which is very, very good. Dribble success, very good again. Touches, very good. Touches in the opposition box, 8.9 per game, which is looks like it's going to be among the top of in the Championship. You also look in defending, and he does like to track back as well. He's not just someone who is a sort of a bit of a wild card option, someone who doesn't contribute to the game. While he does bide his time and wait for his opportunity moving forward, he does provide real cover as well for his defenders as well. So far this season, it's been Luke Ayling, who's primarily played at right back for Middlesbrough. Anthony Dijksteel was playing there against Luton, and he's played a couple of times. But you can see here that Ben Doak is no stranger to getting stuck in as well. He's averaging 6.02 joules won per game. Joules won percentage is 50%, which is pretty good for a midfielder, for a winger, someone who's not trained to defend. And it shows that he's not just, as I mentioned, someone who is out there to score goals and cause problems from an attacking point of view. He does have the work rate and the tenacity to dig in defensively and play his part for the team, which is something which is very, very important, particularly in this day and age, but also for Michael Carrick's team as well. His whole system is very much based around players tracking back and making sure that they are putting in a shift defensively. And that's something that Ben Doak is certainly doing based on these statistics. Now, it's clear to see, you can hear from what I'm saying and you can see on social media just how highly rated Ben Doak is at the Middlesbrough end. But what do Liverpool really think of him? How highly rated is he at Anfield? I've kind of compiled a couple of the quotes here from people who've spoken about Ben Doak to show just how highly rated he really is. Jurgen Klopp spoke about him during his time in charge, saying basically he's a special boy, really confident. He has something nobody else delivers, really, this kind of dribbling, this kind of straightforward bravery, all these kinds of things. Andy Robertson, obviously, he's been a Liverpool mainstay. He's someone who plays alongside Ben Doak with Scotland. He said, I ain't going to put any pressure on the wee man. I love Doakey. I've got a lot of time for him. I can see the quality he's got at Liverpool. He's obviously gone out on loan now to Middlesbrough, which will give him so much good experience. Michael Carrick, from what I can see, is a fantastic manager that will help him. He's an exciting player. That's what he is. He's always been that from a young age. His pace, his power, but there are also things that he needs to work on, and me and him have spoken about it. He knows that as well. He's a hungry individual. He's very determined to do the best for himself and the team, and that's important. He's exciting, but we have to be careful. He's a young player. He needs to gain experience. He needs to work on things, but the quality he does have is very good. And I think he will have a fantastic career at whatever level that may be. Now, obviously, these two have spent a lot of time together for both Liverpool and for Scotland. And you've got to think as well, they've probably worked alongside each other in training quite heavily. Andy Robertson being a left back, him being a right winger. There'll have been a lot of times where the two of them have been going at each other in training, perhaps on opposite teams. And so Andy Robertson knows particularly well just how good Ben Doak is, and you can see that he's very highly rated. Now, obviously, Ben Doak's opportunities haven't really come under Arne Slot this season. I know he was part of the pre-season tour and he's played certain bits there, but Arne Slot also spoke about Ben Doak earlier this season and said in certain situations you prefer to keep the young players here because then they can train with you and you can implement in the best way possible your playing style. But if that means that they hardly play, then it doesn't lead to the progression that you're hoping for. This is the balance that we always try to find. For Ben Doak at Middlesbrough, he went to a very good manager and a very good playing style. Do we want to play them on a regular basis or once in a while when keeping them with us? We have to be aware of our own interests. We can't let everyone go who doesn't play all the time. Now, Liverpool have had a couple of injuries in these sort of areas this season. And so Arne Slot did talk about it as well. And he let out a little bit of a joke. And he said, we have 6 forwards, 2 of them are injured and only have 4 left. With the schedule we have, that's sometimes a worry for me. Maybe we should bring Ben Doak back. And he was joking. He was saying it with his tongue firmly in his cheek. But it is a situation that Middlesbrough might be a little bit anxious about going into the January transfer window. If he does keep performing so well, then there's every possibility that it could happen that he could be recalled to Anfield, or perhaps the opportunity will come up for a Premier League loan. I don't know the ins and outs of the arrangement and whether that will be allowed. But from Middlesbrough's point of view, they'll be absolutely desperate to keep hold of Ben Doak, certainly for the rest of this season at the very least. For Middlesbrough, the question's simple. Is Ben Doak a player who could be sticking around on a permanent basis? You've got to say that the likelihood is probably not. Kieran Scott, Middlesbrough sporting director, did do a round of interviews near the start of the season. Just after the close of the summer transfer window, when he did talk about Ben Doak's situation directly, basically saying about how Michael Carrick played a really key role in bringing him to the club. Jonathan Woodgate, who was Michael Carrick's number 2, he previously worked at Liverpool in a scouting capacity and with the youth teams. He knows all about Ben Doak. The two of them worked really hard to bring him to Middlesbrough over the summer once they knew that he was available. But it is a deal where, contrary to Middlesbrough's usual recruitment model, they are very aware that they're not going to be able to bring Ben Doak in on a permanent basis. Kieran Scott actually said that there was 0 chance of that happening. Ben Doak is someone who is very, very highly rated at Liverpool. You can see by the fact that he's on the periphery of the first team. You can see it by the fact that first team players and Arne Slot, the first team manager, is talking about him. As far as his development is concerned, Middlesbrough are really just going to be a step on his trajectory to the top. From what I've seen of Ben Doak, he is someone who I certainly believe will be playing at the highest level, playing in the Champions League and vying for league crowns and that sort of thing. Obviously, I hope Middlesbrough will be a club who will be able to do that in the years to come. But speaking realistically, it does feel like it would be very unlikely that Middlesbrough will be able to sign him on a permanent basis, particularly next summer. Even if he does have a successful season, you'd think that the likelihood would be that he would return to Anfield and be challenging for a first-team place, or potentially the next step for him would be a loan to another Premier League club, potentially in the second half of the season, although hopefully not. or for next season as he continues to step up his development. But Ben Doak's only 19 years of age. He's only a young lad. There's plenty of time for improving. And for Middlesbrough, the hope will just be that they can get the best out of him over the rest of this campaign. He's someone who has the potential to change games and win games single-handedly. The impact that he's made so far this season has been absolutely outstanding. And for Middlesbrough, who will be challenging to get into the playoffs and ultimately secure promotion, Ben Doak will be a very, very important part of doing so. So based on that, I want to hear from you. If you're a Middlesbrough supporter, how much would you like to see Ben Doak stay at the club? How good is he? And how exciting is he to watch? That's something that I've seen spoken about a little bit as well. Just how exciting he is a player, someone who gets fans off their seats. So I'd really love to hear from you. Drop into the comments below. Let me know what you think about Ben Doak as a signing. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do hit like and hit subscribe as well. And yeah, I will catch up with you very soon.